Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me to present during this interesting webinar. I'm working for Zero Waste Europe. We are the European network of communities, experts, and organizations that basically focus on elimination of waste in our society. So our main actually core business is to really work on circular economy that is focusing on prevention and reduction. And we are supporting many NGOs, local groups, and communities through our network. We are also actively involved in discussions with the policymakers to basically also push for the best sustainable practices. And we are also having very very successful Zero Waste Cities program, where we work very closely with municipalities, again, actually to scale up the best practices. And one of our actually main main sectors we are working is packaging. And this is also because this is the sector where, first of all, unfortunately, is actually at the core of the pollution, is bringing a lot of problems because of mostly use of single-use packaging, actually not recyclable or not recycled. It can even create extra food waste in certain circumstances. There's an issue with hazardous chemicals in packaging that are still not really solved, even we have a couple of chemical regulations in the EU. We know that plastic is also production of use of plastic and disposal of plastic is also connected to the global warming. But in case of paper, actually, we see also more and more increasing problem with deforestation, and basically a lot of waste until recently. What we are managing our waste, it's also through exporting to the countries where not necessarily this waste is recycled. It's rather actually very often treated in not really the best way. And if you just scale a little bit on the packaging in Europe, so the reality check is indeed quite depressing, because while it's a lot of plastic and paper is used as the resources in packaging, and its packaging accounts roughly for 56% of municipal solid waste. Of this, 40% is food and drink packaging. Yes, only a part that was actually covered more in the previous presentation. Only actually still relatively small percent is recycled, and in case of food packaging, actually very seldom it's recycled back to the food packaging, except of PET bottles, for which already we have the regulatory requirements under Single-Use Plastic Directive. And then at the same time, we produce actually between 170 and 180 kilos of plastic waste per each European citizen. And then on the left side, you see some signs also that a lot of voluntary initiatives from the manufacturers, many manufacturers and retailers, they focus on reducing of plastic. But unfortunately, many of those promises, these initiatives are not really very successful. So this can actually, at the end, bring us to the situation that we need regulation. We really need to put some, more hard demands to improve the situation of the packaging and packaging waste. And when you look historically, actually, the first time that we in the EU had the legislation, it was back in 1994. So it would be next year, 20 years ago, when there was the directive on packaging waste has been adopted. And since then, it has been reviewed a couple of times, but the main focus were on the waste management and recycling. So it's really on the second part of the title, packaging waste. We would like actually see to more efforts to work on the packaging itself. That is where actually the real prevention can happen. So now, for the first time, the European Commission actually in this revision proposed really quite ambitious really prevention and reuse measures. And this is also a court, of course. This comes also with the whole more ambitious really plans of European Commission, European Parliament, regarding the Green Deal and what has been published in the Circular Economy Action Plan. We have also other strategies, the From Farm to Fork strategy, chemical strategy for sustainability, or actually all of them are also really touching on packaging, and where some different from different angles, the packaging is recognized as those sector, as those product that has to be really better tackled from an environmental point of view, but actually also from the human health at some point. So, well, after 2.5 years period of assessment and consultations, last year on 30th of November, the Commission proposed, published actually a final proposal of this law, and this is when actually we has been facing the fact that the Commission has proposed to change the legal instrument, so converting from directive into regulation, and this is actually a positive way to go, because this actually implies that directly those law will be directly actually applicable at the national level once adopted in the EU, without any need of long transposition processes, and basically the same rules should be applicable in each of member states. And the main aim is to ensure really like homogeneity in the implementation, avoid fragmentation, and that's actually also very important thing that we may sometimes forget to say, but actually that any regulation, direct regulation, is bringing more legal certainty also to economic operators, because there are real framework that this economic operators will operate in the future. So if you go like really would like to have like 4 general objectives, you would say waste, prevent first of all waste generation, and one of those ways how you can do it is promote reuse and refill, reduce also extensive and unnecessary packaging. There is some part of this regulation that's really the proposal is really targeting quite in detail. And of course, we have to prevent waste, but we also need better address and manage our waste. So then we need to improve recyclability, minimize the complexity of packaging, and increase, as said also before, recycled content. So yeah, I'm not really be reading everything in detail. I'm sure that you will have also access to the to this presentation later on. But well, we have what we always had in the law, so the reduction targets, and they are spread from the first target is 2030, so actually just in a couple of years, the last for 2040. This proposal also sets the rules for refilling criteria for systems for reuse. So that goes about governments, cost distribution, user responsibility, cleaning, washing, everything around. Also, of course, reusable packaging, so compliance with health and hygiene standards. There are many sector-specific reuse targets proposed, including also food and beverage sectors. There is a plan to have a dedicated label on reusable packaging with a QR code. This is something that many other regulations also really pushing. So for this digital data carrier, some call it like a product digital passport, but that's where a lot is. We talk about digital economy in the last years. Recycled content targets, well, they're actually only for plastic packaging, but they are there. There is idea also to really ban certain single-use packaging and to also improve just the collection of waste, but it's actually extremely important when it also comes to recycling. The mandatory deposit return schemes are proposed to be introduced. And this is a really big piece of legislation. It's around 120 pages with more than 60 articles and annexes. So of course, I'm not going really today into details, but just touching on the most important at least how we see it also, and also from all the discussions now during negotiations, it seems they are crucial for everyone. So there was this reuse and refill targets. So just you see here different sectors and different targets depending. So mainly this is the first deadline is 2030, next one is 2040, and you see that, for example, for beverages we go from like with 20 to 80, from food takeaway from 10 to 40, etc., etc. So also alcoholic drinks, wine, the transport is also really the Commission proposed ambitious plan that actually 90% of packaging should be really somehow included in reuse systems by 2040. E-commerce, I think that's something also very close to everyone. Yes, we buy more and more online, and this is actually was a huge amount of packaging and waste is generated, and of course some exceptions. And then we have those recycled content, plastic, mentioned in the previous presentation. Well, we had so far in the European legislation, we had the targets of the mandatory recycled content for the PET beverage bottles, and that came with the single-use plastic directive. But here now, Commission proposed that, first of all, so there are the different, depending of it's contact sensitive or not contact sensitive, and it's really division on those PET, so polyethylene terephthalate polymer, for which we actually also, if you look at this new adopted regulation on use of recycled content in food contact, this is actually the only one recognized as already suitable, safe technology under this new regulation. But there is also the Commission also proposed clearly the targets for contact sensitive, so made from those other plastics, not PET, and also from other packaging. And so we go really from 10% by 2030 in the current proposal for non-PET plastics to except single, so this is for the 50%. So, well, we could say that this is quite ambitious, and well, considering the current state, let's say, of recycling plastic, non-PET plastic, that is, I think, also quite challenging still. There's also, I just mentioned it because there's also a lot of discussions around the use of different substances in packaging. And this is one of the parts that, unfortunately, I must admit, the Commission was much less ambitious. They basically repeated what was in the old directive. So we need to minimize the use of substance of concern in the packaging, but this is very difficult actually to put any enforcement on this kind of formulation. And there are also a couple, there's actually only 5 very short paragraphs in this article. They're focusing on the old 4 legacy metals that are already addressed in this in the directive since years, and they also there is some input on how this requirement for recycling should also include how it should consider the substances of concern. And then if you look at the process, so where we are, so this is like when on 30th of November, as I said, last year, Commission proposal was published, and then we had so far very, very intense discussions in the European Parliament. So we are actually now, next week, we expect the first vote in the European Parliament in the ENVI committee, so the one that is responsible for the health environment, which is leading on the file. Next month in November, normally we should have the plenaries vote, so the whole European Parliament will vote on this proposal. Here is that's this dot, and then we go to process that's called trilogue process. So there will be further negotiations with the last co-legislator. That means basically European Council member states, and then we do hope that this piece of law will be adopted next year, although I think the whole process is still getting more and more delays, so we'll see. So that's when it goes to the timing, but during this whole negotiation process, there is so I presented here just a couple of different pieces from the European Commission proposal, but I must say that this is what is happening, that the final proposal will be quite changed, and yeah, it's really everything is just still under negotiation. So it's really difficult to show what will be there and to share the concrete numbers. But we actually, with this particular regulation, we experience, and I mean by we is European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council member states, and also we as civil societies, really unprecedented lobbying. Everybody's saying that the amount of you know, let's say the pressure that is put during these negotiations on the legislator to change the text is huge. And unfortunately, we already see that the Commission ambition has been actually weakened, and main focus is on weakening this what we call unnecessary packaging targets, and reuse targets are really at the risk of being weakened. Yeah, and that's mainly really, it seems, opposition. It's not really very, let's say, the big secret, because you can see what's going on in the different media. There's a lot of published around about the process and situation, but there's a strong opposition from the plastic and paper packaging industry as well, and consumer goods sector. So this, for those who are interested, there is beneath the text here, it's the link to website. So that's the organization who is really specialize in analysis of different lobbies, published there a lot of information. So that's for those who are interested. And this is basically my last slide, because yeah, I don't really have much time and I don't want to overgo above the time, but just to say that there is a lot of different resources on our website. So where we tackle different issues related to reuse, to recycling, to the packages regulation, and yeah, there's plenty of reports, and there are also plenty of reports published also by within the network. So yes, I would just invite anybody who is interested to look, and then of course, if anybody has any questions, is welcome also to post them directly to me. And thank you very much for your attention.